Hello and welcome to this episode of Cooking with Cerebral Snacks. My name is Adi. Today we're going to be making some cool stuff with dry ice. So we just finished our States of Matter video, so we have a whole bunch of leftover chunks of dry ice. So here's just an informal video on what to do if you have extra dry ice like us. So, number one, and my favorite thing to do, is get some juice in a big jug like this. This is orange juice. You can use any sort of juice, apple juice, any other juice. You can use water if you want. Then, get a piece of dry ice, and make sure it's food safe. When they make dry ice, sometimes they add chemicals that make it faster in its freezing process. So, if you get it from an ice cream parlor, it's probably food safe, but it doesn't hurt to ask. We got this from a local ice cream parlor, so it's okay. So, drop it in your juice and let it bubble for some time. Now, do not seal it. Don't close the lid, because then you'll have a bomb. It'll build up pressure. As you can see, it's making carbon dioxide gas. The pressure will start building up, and if you seal it, you can make the bottle explode. So, never do this in a sealed container, and I recommend not using glass when you do this, as you can thermal shock the glass and it'll shatter. So use plastic or paper cups if you want to. Okay, we'll leave that on the side. That takes anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes to carbonate, depending on how much juice you have. So for that, it might take another 10 minutes or so. So number two, another cool one. We actually showed this in the blooper of our States of Matter video. If you have a ladle like this, and come on, unclip the camera. Okay, yeah. Like I said, informal video. Can you see the stove? Mm-hmm. Okay, so just get to your stove. Now carefully put the metal spoon into the flames, heating it up. I recommend wearing gloves for this, as the metal can conduct heat into the handle and it'll burn your hands. Okay, it doesn't need to be that long, maybe 10 seconds, so I think that's good. Right? And grab a chunk of dry ice. Dry ice sounds like it's farting. Actually, another cool thing you can see is that when I push the dry ice, it seems almost like there's no friction. It's like it's floating around. Why is that? Well, both of these effects are because of the same thing. When I heat up the ladle, it's very, very hot. And dry ice is very, very cold. So when I put a hot ladle on this, it turns the surface it's touching into carbon dioxide gas almost immediately. The table does it. Or the table does that too sometimes. So, when I put this hot ladle on this piece of dry ice, it turns that part of the dry ice immediately into gas. And what that gas does is it pushes up, it expands, and it pushes up on the ladle. So the ladle comes up slightly, but then after the gas escapes, the ladle hits back down on the dry ice. It goes up, down, up, down, up, down, really, really, really fast, giving you that farting sound. Now, if your ladle cools down, it won't work anymore, so heat it right back up. And then, like I said earlier, this side's smoother, a piece of dry ice kind of looked like it was floating around. Yeah, there we go. Well, that's because the dry ice is actually not touching the table. See, it's just floating around. As you can see, it's floating around because it's not touching the table. This is actually because of, like I said earlier, when the dry ice touches the warmer surface of the table, it turns into a gas. And it makes a slight cushion of air underneath it, a slight cushion of carbon dioxide gas that it floats on top of, like a hovercraft actually. So those hovercrafts you can buy at a dollar store as a toy, or the giant multi-billion-dollar military hovercrafts they use, they work off this principle. They push down air, or in this case carbon dioxide gas is being pushed down, and that makes the hovercraft or the dry ice block float on top of there. And as we all know, air has less friction than the surface. It's easier for me to move my hand in the air than it is for my hand to move on this table because it has more friction. So, you get a mini hovercraft. Now, I guess you could, if you get a nice flat rectangular piece of dry ice and you get a large board and many chunks of dry ice, you could make a hovercraft that you could just push someone around on. Pretty cool stuff. Then finally, number three, this one is for birthday parties, if you have any planned. Wait for my camera. Just unclip it from the tripod. Yeah, there you go. So, over here I got a pot of hot water.
Whoa, it's...
Yeah?
Okay, yeah.
So I got some hot water heated up over here. This is for birthday parties, so if you have a magic-themed birthday party or something, this works great. So just get a pan, or you can do this in your sink. Just turn on your faucet into hot water and plug your sink so you get a pool of very, very hot water. And then take a chunk of dry ice. Now the bigger, the better in this case because it has more surface area. If you don't have that larger piece, if you have a piece that's even smaller than this, you can grind it up into a powder. Then it'll have more surface area and it'll work better. It'll sublimate much faster. But like I said, it'll sublimate much faster. Put it back on the tripod. Put the camera on the tripod. It'll sublimate much faster, so it won't last as long. So you have to balance it out. Do you want it to last long, or do you want it to be really, really cool? So, I've dropped this piece of dry ice into the hot water. Get a huge cloud of dry ice. So over here we get a huge, steamy kind of mess. We actually did this for my brother's birthday. We took a giant chunk of dry ice, I think it was like 10 pounds, and we filled our sink full of hot water. Dropped the chunk in. We had thick carbon dioxide covering the counter. You couldn't even see it. It was awesome. We had a magic-themed birthday party. It was awesome. So this is really cool. If you don't have a sink, you can just do this. It works great. I think the sink works better because it's below, the dry ice is below the surface, so you can't see the pot. It just looks like the smoke is coming out of nowhere. It's a really, really cool effect. Let's just pour off all the extra water. And like I said before, the very, very hot pot is now doing the same thing as the hot ladle. Oh, I lost my chunk of dry ice. Now dry ice is also more dense than air, so if you have it in a sink, it will stay in the sink. I have to blow to get it back out. Otherwise it will sink right back in. Oh, my piece broke into two. Three, actually. 1, 2, 3 pieces. Cool. So, let's move this off to the side. Let's get back to our carbonated drink over here. So, every so often, about every 5 minutes, I recommend you take out your piece of dry ice because you will have slush covering it up. Like this. Our orange juice is frozen on it. So, I'll take my gloves off for this, or at least one. You have a chunk of frozen orange juice on top of your dry ice, and this covers up the dry ice and can slow down the process. So every so often you should take it off, and you can actually just take it out, put it on the surface like this, and make sure you're wearing gloves when you do this. Just scrape it back off into the pot. Use a glove, I don't want to freeze my hands. It's fine if you scrape the ice back off, because hey, it actually chills your drink. You can actually get a slushy from this. And it doesn't water down your drink. Bonus plus. So once it's back, drop it right back in. But for us, it's basically done. We got a huge chunks of slushy ice here. And thank you, Neil, for the cups. Oh, that's a big chunk of ice. So now we got some slightly effervescent, not really carbonated to the point of soda. It's just ever so slightly fizzy, like, I wouldn't know about champagne, but like sparkling cider, even less than that. It's just slightly effervescent. And it's also cooled with chunks of ice, but it doesn't water your drink down because it's the frozen orange juice. Cheers! See you next time.